right, a very good evening to you, the viewer of West Nile Television. You are most yet welcome for this talk show, and this is also really where we are going to be discussing issues that is related to tax filing, and also really other issues in relation to return filing, IFRIS, and other aspects. And that is why we are here to also really, keep you in the know. And that is one reason as to why West Nile we are here. And this is also in relation to what we call the IFRIS system. And you're most welcome from wherever you're watching us from. And this is also really an honor where we have been joined by a team of officials that's from Uganda Revenue Authority, and they are here to also really let us know of what they are doing in relation to what we call return filing, as I earlier mentioned. And also we are going to be talking some aspect that is of IFRIS, and not forgetting smuggling, because West Nile sub-region has been identified as one of the regions that is most hit by what we call smuggling, and that is already where we are going to be doing that discussion. And now we are joined by Ajiga Mansour. He is in charge of customs also really for Arua Inn, and he is also really here. You're most welcome, Mr. Ajiga.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, viewers. Thank you, moderator.
And also really as well, we are joined by Adiru, the only lady on the panel tonight, and we are going to be doing this discussion up to the hour of 9 o'clock, and that's already where you as the viewer needs to be part of. Mr. Adiru, you're most welcome.
Thank you so much, Majid. Good evening, viewers.
Yes, a very good evening, the viewer. You're most welcome. Stay locked, and we are going to be doing this up to the hour of 9 o'clock. And remember, so many issues have been lingering that in relation to that is what we call return filing, where so many business people have been complaining. And now I want to that is right away with Ms. Adiru, Lillian, to also let us know what exactly return filing is all about. If you can briefly explain to us what return filing is all about, and what takes for a business person maybe to have their businesses also assessed in there.
Thank you so much, Majid. It's an honor and pleasure to be at West Nile Television this evening. Once again, good evening to all our viewers. Today's topic is, to me, it's a timely topic for discussion. It's very important. Why I say so? We have 40 days to end of the financial year. And by June, there are a number of taxpayers we expect to file returns by 30th of June. So that's the reason why I say it is a timely topic for this evening and in this particular period. One thing I would like the viewers to know is that return filing is a requirement that is covered by the laws, the tax laws of this country. Once you are a registered taxpayer, you have an obligation to file your tax return for the types of taxes you're registered for. What is return filing, or what is a return? A return basically is declaration of the taxpayer's income for a given period of time. It has various types depending on which type of tax you've been registered for, and it depends on the accounting period of the taxpayer. You'll find that we have different types, and as a result we have a different periods and different deadlines by which these returns have to come.
Maybe what is required of the taxpayer to also really have their businesses maybe also maybe the aspect of return filing also be assessed. What exactly is required of a business person to have their business also really maybe to do return filing for them?
Thank you for that question. First of all, not anyone just wakes up and files a tax. First of all, you must be registered with Uganda Revenue Authority, and you must have a taxpayer identification number, and that is a number that differentiates one taxpayer from another. Without that number, you cannot file a tax return. Without that number, URA cannot know you. Without that number, after filing your tax return, you cannot make any payment. So the first thing one has to do is to acquire a tax identification number. And then once you have that identification number, you are required to create a portal account. You very well know that our returns are filed electronically. They come online through our portal, and as a result, you have to create a return filing account, let me say a tax account, through our portal to enable you file the return online. Then another thing one needs is proper records, because here you're going to declare your incomes. This means while transacting your business, you must have kept proper records of your business transactions. If you don't have proper records, then you'll have nothing to put into the account. Since the returns are filed electronically, that means the taxpayer should have a computer, because you're going to access the system through a computer aided by an internet facility. So if you don't have a computer, it means you may not be able to file a return, but doesn't mean that you will not file a return. There are other means of supporting you to access your account by use of the computer. So computer is one of the mandatory things for one to file a return. And then you also, for some taxpayers, there is need for having a tax agent, because if a taxpayer is having a turnover above 500 million, by law, you're supposed to hire the services of a tax agent to file your tax returns.
Okay, maybe finally from you, as we get to also bring the gentleman on board, what are some of those maybe types of returns a business person is expected to file?
Well, the type of tax return a person is expected to file depends on the tax type the person is registered for. Because ideally we have those returns that come monthly, and then we have returns that come annually. Annual tax returns are basically income tax return filed by non-individuals and individuals. Non-individuals are actually taxpayers who are not persons like you and me, the natural person. Meanwhile, the individuals are persons like you and me. So those ones file what we call income tax return annually. Then we also have monthly tax returns. This depends on the type of taxes you are registered for. We have value added tax. It comes every month by the 15th of the month. We have pay as you earn, which is filed by employers on behalf of the employees. It also comes every 15th of the following month. We have withholding tax. These are filed by withholding tax agents who are designated to hold tax on behalf of, say, payees or suppliers. Then we have local excise duty as one of the monthly tax returns that come every 15th of the month. Then we also have weekly returns, that is from gaming and pool betting. Then we have, I think basically those are the monthly.
Okay, now let me briefly
returns.
bring on, that's Mr. Jiga, to also tell us about the issue about smuggling. Definitely, you and I know smuggling has been a great challenge in West Nile sub-region, and you are oftentimes has also complained about that. I don't know how that also really affected you in receiving returns.
Thank you so much, moderator, and good evening once again, viewers of West Nile TV. This is a great opportunity for us to interact with the viewers of West Nile TV and to engage on various aspects of, on various issues relating to aspects of life, and most importantly, the issues relating to taxation. Going straight to the point of raised relating to smuggling. Smuggling is not only a challenge in West Nile. While the crossover, smuggling has always been a challenge. And this has so many effects. First of all, we need to understand what smuggling is. Smuggling is basically movement into and out of a country of goods illegally. So when someone decides to move goods into a country or out of a country legally without declaring, the law demands that if you're going to move goods into or out of a country, you need to declare them to customs, because every country has their customs, and for Uganda's case, you have the Uganda Revenue Authority that is mandated to manage the customs processes. So, like for example, if somebody goes to China, to wherever, to bring goods for trade purposes, it is required that these goods are declared to URA through customs procedures. And for Western Isles case, we have the border stretching. We are blessed with the two international boundaries of Congo and Sudan. So for trade purposes, if somebody decides to import goods from Congo and Sudan, the requirement is these goods have to pass through gazetted points and they're declared to URA. And basically for different reasons. One is for tax purposes. Because when somebody is going to import goods, the requirement is somebody needs to pay the little taxes to the government so that we can sustain our country. And then two, it could be a regulation requirement for some goods which have restrictions. It's a requirement that they have to pass through our gazetted points so that they are checked, so that we know whatever is brought into this country is safe for consumption. But now, when somebody for different reasons decides to smuggle in goods without declaring them, it means there's either it can be to dodge taxes or for other reasons such as dodging regulations. Because not everything that is being brought in may pay taxes. Others may not qualify for taxes, but there may be regulations relating to it. So for that matter, if somebody decides to smuggle in goods into the country, like for our case in West Nile, if somebody goes to Congo and smuggles in goods, that is going to bring an aspect of, the dangers are so many. One of them is, like a country like Uganda.
I would ask, maybe before we head into the dangers, what are those forms of smuggling, first of all, which are exhibited in West Nile? Because people have been often talking about the motorcycles, then the fuel. What other types of maybe smuggling are being seen in West Nile sub-region?
No, well, relating to that question you're asking, smuggling has so many forms. What we are trying to ask here is, what are the common items being smuggled into the region? But talking about the forms of smuggling, they range from concealment and misdeclaration and underdeclaration. Those are all forms of smuggling. For Western Nile region, there are so many items that are being smuggled into this country, and most common being motorbikes. There's a lot of smuggle of motorbikes into this region, and apart from motorbikes, there's also smuggling of fuel into this region. And there's also smuggling of cigarettes, and also there's smuggling of cosmetics. Moreover, deadly cosmetics, which our people commonly use for bleaching. People also smuggle them. Then there's also smuggling of food items, including sugar, rice, and cooking oil. Those are the most common items being smuggled in this region. Having said that, as I had already started, smuggling results into so many issues which are undesirable to us, first of all. A country like Uganda, that it depends entirely on revenue, and the mandate of URA being to assess and collect and account for government revenue. Purposely, we need to, as my sister was explaining about the domestic revenue mobilization, we also mobilize revenue from importations. So when a big percentage of the citizens decide to smuggle into the country goods without paying taxes, it means that is going to result into loss of revenue. And we all know the importance of this revenue to the nation. A country like Uganda that has so many services to offer to the citizens, when the revenue is not there, we know all what it means. We have witnessed it with our own eyes that when we go to some of the social facilities, social centers in this country, including hospitals and so on, and the roads, there's no road network, some areas, they are so bad, but we really cry for these services. Government is not going to work on these services when the revenues are not readily available. So these revenues mobilized so that government services are offered to the citizens. So whoever is a smuggler and trying to avoid paying taxes, it means that person is an enemy to this country.
Okay. Because
if you are going to crumble service delivery in this country, you are not being a good citizen to this country.
Okay.
Apart from loss of government revenue as a result of smuggling, smuggling also results to distortion of market prices. Because the people who import goods pay their taxes, whatever they are going to, prices of the goods they are going to put on their products includes the taxes they are paid. Okay. Now here is another person who just crosses and brings in goods
Okay.
and begin selling them in open market.
Now, just finally to you, before we also bring in Adiru to also expand on that, can a smuggler pay taxes? That is the question I want to understand, because after entering maybe illegally through maybe the border points to the country, can they file returns, maybe also pay taxes once they have already entered with the smuggled goods?
Of course, smuggler can pay taxes in a way that if they have been caught.
Okay.
But of course, now the taxes will have to come with a markup, that which is called fines. First of all, if they manage to sneak in successfully without being intercepted and caught, there are no chances that they're going to pay, because the intention is not to pay taxes. But now after being caught, definitely, for goods which are taxable, they are given an opportunity to pay the taxes and pay the fines, and the goods are released to them.
Okay. Now let me bring in Ms. Adiru to also tell us now about what they have been doing to make sure the taxpayers also really file their returns, because I know there are so many challenges that really taxpayers could be going through. What are those challenges likely taxpayers are likely to go through as they are filing their returns?
Thank you, Majid. Sometimes some of these challenges that taxpayers go through,
which could be limiting them from filing their returns.
limiting them. Some of them are limited to their behaviors. First of all, number one, access controls.
Okay.
You find that a taxpayer may not have access to the portal account simply because this is a taxpayer maybe who for the first time got registered but did not create an account, and from W is furnishing the first return and waits for that last minute to come and file the return. At the end of the day, if all taxpayers wait for that last day and it is your first time maybe to access the portal, you are prone to face a challenge of what? Maybe not filing the return on the due date, simply because you delayed to create account and you delayed to file it earlier before the deadline. So that is one of the things. And then another challenge is limited information. What causes the limited information? Our taxpayers have poor record-keeping culture. You find someone transacting on daily basis, but does not keep proper what? Documents, proper records. Things are missing. You come on the last day, you want to file the return, but the information is missing. What are you going to put in the return? That's another challenge. Then we also have a challenge of taxpayers using agents who misadvise them to under-declare income. That is a very, very big challenge to them, and they usually don't realize it at the time of filing the return. They get to know it when the wrong return has actually reached their account, and then we do what we call compliance checks and discover that the taxpayer has not filed the proper return simply because you did not keep the right records and you used the services of a person who misadvised you to do something wrong. Yeah.
So maybe under such circumstances, what message would you have for these taxpayers? Because if you look at our taxpayers, you really, when we saw the recent riot of the traders, they say the challenge with IFRIS is that for them they did not go to school and they are finding challenges. That is also really in filing their returns. Maybe what message could you have for that business person who did not go to school but is interested in filing their returns?
Well, one big thing I normally tell taxpayers is that take record keeping very serious. Yeah? Let me give you an example with the VAT registered taxpayers who do not want to keep records, and yet we have facilitated them by introducing a very simple solution that enables them to have complete, accurate record onto their system. They are able to access this record at any time, and it's not a misleading record. I usually advise my taxpayers, please, can you record everything that you have done, be it making sales, be it purchases, be it any other expenses, so that when it comes to the time of filing tax return, you are up to date with the information and you are also in time with meeting the deadline of filing returns. And then another thing I usually advise my taxpayers, more especially the VAT registered, I like giving those examples of VAT registered taxpayers because they are the most people who usually suffer with challenges of returns. If you know that you're VAT registered, can you please deal with a fellow registered, VAT registered taxpayer so that you have that benefit of claiming your input credits. But you find most times you are dealing in, you are VAT registered, you go purchase from someone in Kiseka market who is not VAT registered, who is unable to give you an electronic invoice. Then when it comes to filing your return, you end up paying the whole VAT on the sales you made.
Okay.
Yeah, those are some of the advice I usually give the taxpayers.
All right, as we are 31 minutes after 8 p.m. and we are going to be taking a short commercial break, and still we are discussing issues related to return filing, and we also want to talk about IFRIS because recently we did see our traders complaining about IFRIS, and we are going to be talking about that. But really, before we get to that break, I also want to now still bring that is Mr. Jiga to continue with the aspect that is of smuggling, because we want to cut across all these challenges. We want to make sure that each and everybody out there who is watching us right now gets to understand that what we are talking about can be also put aside, as we also want to understand that smuggling has its own negative repercussions, as earlier on alluded to, that was already by Mr. Zigam. And now we also want to understand how they have been also working towards addressing this concern here. That would be quite well for us to understand. What have you done as Uganda Revenue Authority to make sure that the masses leave what we call smuggling and maybe engage in other activities that would also really be quite good for them?
Thank you so much, moderator. And before I go to what URA has been able to do, and I will still want to add one or two more points on the impacts, the effects of negative effects of smuggling. Still on the issue of loss of revenue, I wanted to bring this one to our attention that we are all aware about the position of our country right now relating to anti-homosexuality bill, which resulted to cutting of aid to this nation. And when that came in, we all know what we expect. So on top of that, if you now have the saboteurs who still don't want to contribute their fair share to this nation, there may be likely no difference between them and the people who are trying to force us to follow their culture, which is very unfortunate. And then I was about to mention a point on relating to dangers of smuggling still. I said it results to distortion of market prices. Somebody goes and imports goods and pays taxes, and then there's this another one who just goes and smuggles the goods and sells them at much more lower prices. So we find the market prices are being destabilized time and again here, and they're affecting people who are compliant. I think that's not a good one. Then it also results into collapse of the local industries. You know, we have companies that have been manufacturing locally and selling locally here. One example happens to be our company, Bidco. Bidco registered a very huge loss in recent years, resulting to smuggling, effects of smuggling, because they lost the market in West Nile due to smuggling. People were importing more cooking oil from Congo and Sudan, whereby Bidco ended up losing the local market. And we know what it meant. It means the taxes Bidco was contributing to the country were not being contributed now because it was registering losses. And even the employment opportunity the company was providing for the locals was also affected. And then still on that, smuggling has resulted to, it results as in West Nile region especially, loss of lives. Lives have been lost recently. You might be aware. One, this has been as a result of goods that are dangerous being imported in this country, including the cosmetics as talked about, which can result into cancer. And then two, we have had scenarios where people got burned in their houses due to fire caused by fuel. This year alone, I think in West Nile region alone, we have lost over 5 people already. This year alone. Recently, in the month of around Feb, we lost a couple around Arua Airport. Then, barely less than 2 weeks ago, we also lost a mother and, unfortunately, a mother and a daughter around the Arua district. So those are very negative effects of smuggling. Still, we have lost other lives which are not being reported, because if you see, when you sit in this city of Arua, when you see the smugglers, the way they are riding, the reports, unconfirmed reports, indicate that many of them have lost their lives in the course of riding recklessly because they want to avoid being intercepted by the enforcers. So many of them have gotten accidents and have lost their lives that way. So I think that is not a good thing for such a nation to be losing lives to smuggled goods in that way. And then there's also loss of revenue, because when a smuggler is intercepted, as a smuggler is intercepted, because there's that element of possibility of paying so high, there's a chance that somebody is going to pay a little bit very high with the taxes and the fines, which may be very unfortunate, and the business becomes unviable. Then two, still on the loss of wealth, the community that consumes the smuggled goods. I wanted to demonstrate only that, there are regulations relating to importation of some of these goods. As we all know, that fuel is very flammable, and it can cause issues. If the studio had allowed, West Nile TV had allowed, I was going to come with a bottle of fuel that our people buy on the streets, which is being sold by smugglers. There's a way some of the fuel sellers by the roadside fill a bottle like this with the fuel, and they wrap it with these branded papers, which we normally use special for juice. So the people who consume this fuel consume it on assumption that is like, if it's a 1 liter bottle, think it's 1 liter. But what we discovered lately was, these people, they heat this bottle, they squeeze it so that it becomes much more smaller than the real measure. Then they cover it systematically very well to look as if it is 1 liter. So when you are going to buy this fuel, thinking that you are buying 1 liter, and then you are buying less, you are losing wealth in that way. Then this fuel being smuggled is also sometimes adulterated fuel. So you are going to put this fuel in a motorbike, you are going to put it in your vehicle, and it will have issues. You will begin having issues with your vehicle. A vehicle which is supposed to be using for 5-6 years, end up using for 2 years, it breaks down. Okay. So that's how people are losing wealth and revenue as an impact of smuggling. And many more others, as we know. Okay. First of all, smuggling, there's this very serious point here which I want to bring forward. It has resulted to generational hazard. What I mean by this is, in other regions of this country, especially when we are right now where we are for holidays, kids have come back home. Yes. They are busy reading, others are doing coachings and so on. But what is happening in West Nile? We are seeing our kids on the streets selling fuel. So what is going to happen? By the end of the year, when the national results come out, we see our region performing badly, and we get surprised as if we don't know what is causing that. Okay, I was actually coming to that because most of the times our young people have been saying there's nothing they can do. What they know is smuggling, and it's from smuggling that they can get the monies, and that's already how they can be able to also use for themselves. As URA, maybe what are some of those strategies that you have also really done to also really see to that these young people leave what we call the smuggling, so that also maybe they can engage in other activities that are maybe accepted by the law? As URA, this is not a URA issue. As I said, smuggling has become both a security issue, also a revenue concern. Okay. So it's not about URA. I think the whole community needs to wake up and take this up so that we can get the solution together. But as URA, we have adopted the 3 E's, which stands for engage, educate, and then enforce. We try to engage the stakeholders, like what we are doing right now, trying to talk to the community, telling them about the dangers of smuggling, and then, apart from that, we are trying to educate. We have been going to different forums, trying to talk to people, even including schools, to see into that they can do things which can make them sustain. Because that self-pity, I think we should get out of it, saying that we have nothing to do. How about other regions? How are they surviving without smuggling? People have that excuse always, which they always give. We are smuggling fuel because fuel prices are low, compared low in Congo especially, compared to Uganda. But I ask myself, how about other regions? How are people surviving? They are paying the same taxes, which our people are claiming are very high, but they are paying. And when you go to those other regions, the vehicles that are driving are more than the vehicles in West Nile. Okay. How are they sustaining that? So we are engaging, we're educating. Then apart from that, we now go to the last resort of enforcing. Which is enforcing, where problems have always come. And we shall be talking much about the enforcement bit of it later on as we run for this short commercial break. And this is still West Nile Television, channel 477 of StarTimes, and also we are online across all the social media platforms. But for now, let's have this short commercial break. And when we return back, we shall be able to take up with the conversion from there. Stay tuned.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region. West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
National TV channel 477 on StarTimes and online across all our social media platforms, and we are still discussing URAs, that is return filing, because I do understand that each and everybody doing business has the mandate, that is to file returns, and that is one reason also at times we see people quaking because they have not been filing their returns, and we are saying today you must also make sure that you file your returns, because as a taxpayer, as a business person, you have the mandate and not necessarily to wait for these people who are going to come on ground and then you start seeing you fidgeting to see that also your business are not closed. And this is why we are here, and we're also talking about aspect that is of IFRIS, because so many people have been also really complaining about IFRIS, and recently we did see traders in Kampala also really staging riots, which also really moved that is to some parts across the region, and this is why we are saying also we want to make them understand why exactly they need to do that. And now we were discussing about the aspect of smuggling, which has already been a great concern, that is not only for West Nile sub-region but the entire country, because if you really see what is happening that is in relation to smuggling, it has been identified as a cancer, as a disease that is really more than cancer, and that is why people must also really desist from that practice. And this is why also we are here today to also really make the people understand why they need to desist from these aspects that we did mention. And we are going to be doing more about that, because as URA, the mandate is also to make sure that people pay taxes, because the laws also really mandate URA to also really make sure that people collect the taxes from the people, and that is why we are here. And I'm still by a team of that is a wonderful panel that is from Uganda Revenue Authority, and we are still discussing that. And earlier on we are discussing about the dangers of smuggling, and also they did mention to us what exactly they are doing to also make sure that this is from smuggling because of its dangerous also maybe aspects that you mentioned. And that is where also I want to also take this honor to ask maybe whoever is in that business to also really desist from it, because it is actually one dangerous thing. And now let's talk about also really the issues about also IFRIS, because this is where so many people have been maybe raising concerns here and there, because definitely some people are saying, is it a form of tax? Or maybe is it also really different from the VAT? Is it different from that? Now the team is here to explain to us that, and I want to bring now that to Ms. Adiru to explain to us what IFRIS is all about, because most of the time people have been complaining about IFRIS because other people thought maybe it is a new form of tax. What is IFRIS?
Is IFRIS a tax?
Yes, that is the question some people have been asking. What is IFRIS all about?
IFRIS is not a tax. That is an affirmative.
Okay, because some people are scared about it. Some people are scared about IFRIS, and looking at the recent riots, they actually raised so many issues about it.
Yes,
which actually went on up to the president.
It's true, you're right. We kept hearing. Government has introduced a new tax.
Okay.
A new tax. But first of all, when did IFRIS start?
That is what we need to understand.
Anyway, IFRIS is not a tax. It is a system that we introduced to us. We thought it would help the what? The taxpayer themselves. We rolled IFRIS out in 2020-2021 financial year. When we rolled it out, first of all, even before rolling it out, we introduced it. We start running campaigns of the new system to be used by the VAT registered taxpayers because they were our target, #1 target. So we ran a lot of campaigns until when we realized that people had now got to know what IFRIS is. After we rolled it out, when we rolled it out, some sections of the taxpayers said they were not yet ready to start using IFRIS. We should give them a period of time. If I can remember very well, they were given 3 months to sort themselves, to organize themselves. Especially the manufacturers are the ones who requested for an extension of what? The IFRIS, because it had to do with configuring your stock onto the system, storing whatever stock was offline, online. After that, we thought it was over. Again, after end of the expiry of the 3 months, we got another request that we are not yet ready. Give us more time to prepare. But as the ones who requested for extensions were putting right their record, their stock and everything that they required to do, to put in place, others were already using it. Then eventually, January 2021 was when people started using IFRIS. It is not a tax. It is a solution we introduced to help taxpayers to record their transactions electronically.
Okay. Maybe me who is trying to set up a business, is it compulsory for me to use IFRIS? Because I maybe want to live here and I start a new small business there. Am I required to also really use IFRIS?
First of all, before we go into are you required to
is it
use
compulsory
IFRIS?
in other words?
IFRIS is compulsory for VAT registered taxpayers. Why? Before we introduced IFRIS, taxpayers were keeping manual records. We had cases of sales under declaration, wrong input tax credits being claimed in the returns. We had cases of delayed refunds processing. We had cases of lost records. When we are conducting tax audits, taxpayers tell you my records are misplaced, records are that. We thought it wise and said maybe if we can introduce such a solution, it will help solve the problem of record keeping, and indeed it does.
Okay.
So IFRIS is compulsory for all VAT registered taxpayers.
Okay.
First of all, we want them to have up-to-date records, accurate records. It helps them also to to monitor their stock level. Because when you stock a certain quantity of your goods onto IFRIS, it will be showing you every time you make a sale, it will be showing you the amount which is left in the stores. It helps to alert you. Number 2, when you ask for tax refund, we don't need to hassle doing rigorous tax refund audits, because everything that is needed by a registered VAT taxpayer is onto the IFRIS. The correct sales are there, the correct purchases are there. So what can take our time?
Okay.
Instant refund processing.
Okay. Recently, we did see that is a strike staged by the business community in Kampala, which actually spreaded that is to other parts of the country, and this is in relation to the IFRIS system. And now I want to ask, because the traders were actually raising so many concerns. First of all, the issue of double taxation, and then second, they also talked about the issue about difficulty to use the IFRIS system because they said it requires for them to also really have people who went to school, because for them as business community, they did not go to school. And earlier on, you mentioned about the 3 months which were given to these people before also the rollout of the IFRIS system, and there was also an addition to these months that also the business community can get prepared. In your own opinion, maybe did URA do enough, or perhaps where is the gap now for these people to accept the IFRI system? Because the fact is URA brought it for the business community to own it, which did not really go on well with the people, with the business community, which actually resulted in the strikes, which also called for the intervention of the head of the state. Maybe what can you say about that?
Thank you for that question. As URA, we have a comprehensive, if I may say, tax education system. And we have all those tax education programs in place. If I can remember very well, when we were introducing IFRIS, we did a lot of trainings, a lot of hand-holdings. We even went to the extent of introducing, we had YouTube videos, which we deployed on different sites, whereby a taxpayer can access the YouTube, you play the video, it has a proper guide for a registered person, for the IFRIS user. What IFRIS is all about, why we introduced IFRIS, the theoretical part of it, and then the practical process of how IFRIS is being used. We had such education initiatives in place before we rolled out. As I talk, every time a new VAT registered taxpayer comes on board, it is actually one of the requirements. We need to check well that you are capable of using IFRIS. And once we do that check, before you start using it, we train you, we handhold. First of all, our offices are very open. Our service desk officers are always there in place to teach taxpayers on how to use IFRIS. To me, if I may say, we did enough. We did trainings, we called taxpayers sector-wise, we did those trainings. We involved tax agents because most of the VAT registered taxpayers are using tax agents. So we gave priority to all the sectors of the registered taxpayers to know how IFRIS is used and why we introduced IFRIS. We did a lot of training and we are still doing. It is a continuous process. Yep.
Then let me first go back to Ajiga. Ajiga, we are bordering two, that is nations, that is the Democratic Republic of Congo and South Sudan. And I do understand that as the in charge of customs, definitely there are goods that also really enter the country. Do these goods also really pass through IFRIS? Can they also really maybe assessed via IFRIS? And definitely for somebody who does not know, maybe also really how user-friendly is this IFRIS system maybe to the people of West Nile sub-region, and how has the reception been like for those people in this region here? Because so many people have been raising concern about the IFRIS system, and then how is the reception like for people from this region? Thank you.
Thank you so much, moderator. I think one of the issues we need to deal with is consumption of wrong information, which has created a very big challenge to us as a country and to us as individuals also. When you trace back to the debate relating to IFRIS and the confusion around it and so on, I think we wasted a lot of our time for, let me say, for nothing, because nothing has changed. As my sister just explained, some people created a story around it that it was a new tax and so on. And who are the losers in all this? It's the traders who are the losers in all this. Because you are renting somebody's house in Chikubo, you have decided to close it for like 1 week, you are not working on a wrong information. The landlord is not going to say that you never sold for 1 week, you will not pay the rent. At the end of the day, you are going to pay the rent, and you still have to come back and use the IFRIS. As I just rightly explained, this is a system to improve on our processes, which is a very good thing. And going now direct to the question of us relating to importations into this country and in this region, I want to make it categorically clear that IFRIS relating to domestic tax mobilization is a system that supports domestic tax mobilization. For goods that are imported from out of this country, there's a system which customs uses. One of them happens to be the SCUDA systems, which helps to capture the details of the goods and the importers and so on. So IFRIS doesn't apply so much with the international trade and importation of goods. That's briefly what I can say relating to relationship between IFRIS and importation of goods into this region.
Okay, maybe then the aspect
maybe
of...
to add to what he has just explained, at point of clearing these goods, the trader may not use IFRIS. But once the trader has cleared and has entered with these goods into the country, the trader can what?
Can now be able to use
Exactly,
IFRIS.
can now be able to use IFRIS
Okay.
by entering details of the goods that have been imported, because some of them import to what? To sell.
Okay.
So if you're importing to sell and you're VAT registered taxpayers,
Okay.
you have to what? Configure these goods. You have to stock them
Okay.
onto the IFRIS system,
Okay.
so that you are able to sell it, unless you're not what? VAT registered taxpayer, because it's not compulsory for non-VAT registered taxpayers.
Okay.
But if you're registered VAT taxpayer, once you have imported, you've cleared with customs, you come and enter them onto the system.
All right, thank you so much. People have often raised that issues about double taxation with the IFRIS system, and this is only where I want to understand now. Is it true that also maybe a person who is at the factory can be taxed from there, and then when the goods reach the wholesales, they also taxed, and then finally to the also really the retailer, the chain has been continuing? How true is that? Maybe what can you say about that? Because this is also really where one information people have been saying that also the IFRIS system, why they're rejecting is because it has been paving way for what we call maybe double taxation. How true is that?
Thank you.
I'll start with you, then Ajiga will also really expound on that.
Okay. I don't think there is double taxation. Why I say so, let me refer to the VAT registered taxpayer who is a compulsory user of IFRIS. VAT, which is charged by the manufacturer, does not end with the manufacturer. And if you know very well, VAT is what? Tax paid on consumption. And this is paid by the final consumer of the product. Let's take an example with this water we drink. It has VAT on it. The manufacturer charged VAT on it. At every stage of production, at every stage of the distribution, from the manufacturer to the distributor to the wholesaler, the retailer maybe, and then finally me who drinks it is the one who pays the VAT. So there is no aspect of double taxation in between here, because the intention of VAT is to be what? Charged on the person who finally consumes. It is an indirect tax paid by the final person.
Okay. Maybe that is why some people have now been running away from IFRIS. It is now clear that they have gotten it. It is the final consumer who is also maybe supposed to do that. Now let me ask, how easy is for one to also have their businesses under IFRIS? Maybe how easy is it for them to also really file returns? First of all, how easy is it for them to use the IFRIS system so that also we would not have the running battles again?
First of all, how easy to use IFRIS? One thing we resolved in one of the meetings that we have had with our management has had with with the traders who have been complaining about the use of IFRIS is to go back and start refresher trainings, especially to all the traders who say they do not know how to use IFRIS, even when they have been what? They have been using IFRIS. And then we have to handhold them. At every service office, we are supposed to teach, train, and show the process of registration for VAT, and then the enrollment for IFRIS, and how one is supposed to stock the goods or services onto IFRIS, and finally, how to issue the electronic invoice. That one we have resorted to do that, and we are going to support. And then we also encourage you to get used to the different platforms of IFRIS system. Some complain that they don't know how to use it. It is very expensive. It is this and that. It is not as expensive as one thinks. First of all, if it is the VAT registered taxpayers to use, what is the turnover of a taxpayer who is VAT registered? 150 million. And I expect a person who has turnover above 150 million to afford a smartphone. Isn't that? Yes. Now, so IFRIS can be accessed through use of
phones. Which the president actually did ask for them to.
Exactly. The EFD machines, they are cheap. today our Commissioner General was on radio in Kampala. The price is now 1.1. All traders have been encouraged to what? To acquire one.
Okay.
So if your turnover is above 150 million, is it really hard for you to purchase a machine of 1.1, which is going to help you to keep your records safe, which is going to help you to reduce the time you've been taking to ask for refunds, which is going to help you to have the correct amount of VAT. As you're recording your transactions and downloading these reports, you're able to know how much VAT you're likely to pay or not. So it is a simple solution to me and not expensive as such. The most important thing is to teach them on how to use it.
Okay. Maybe briefly now, let me bring in Ajiga here. Still in relation to IFRIS, I do understand that also really he has vast knowledge in that. Still, just briefly, you will be able to explain something small about that. Because really what is happening today is that we have so many people who are working as commission agents. In Arroyo, we call them the commissionaries. In Kampala, we call them the muhiribis. I don't understand that they also really in one way or the other affected, because as somebody who is going to buy from the shop, they are moving well knowing that they are going to earn commission. How are they affected under the IFRIS system? Because they may not be able to access the receipt, unlike also really where it is required for them to also really maybe also really have the receipt, because the receipting also really plays a great role. That's in tax assessment, because somebody may be able to move to a shop and get a receipt of maybe 300,000, claiming to the customer, the final customer, that the good was only purchased at 400,000 in there. In between here, there was something that was not right, because at the end of the day, we expect people to be honest. Because honesty is one thing that URA has also really been calling upon. How are they being affected under this?
Thank you so much. I may not explain so much on that. I will pass it to my sister to make more comments on it. But I think one of the reasons why people should embrace IFRIS is to eliminate that kind of the mistrust you are talking about. Unless if somebody can prove to us that they can forge the IFRIS receipt. But otherwise, I wouldn't see it being a problem. Before the IFRIS system, I think it was a common scenario where people just forge receipts here and there. So for this, it's very easy to track the sales and of a person. So I think it shouldn't be a problem. That's why we need to really give people the right information relating to IFRIS. It can eliminate that middleman kind of the brokerage you are talking about. I think my sister can add more on that.
Yes, definitely, because they had been raising concern that the IFRIS will not be able to cater for them. How are they affected and how should they act in this case?
I really don't think IFRIS can affect them in any way. First of all, are they VAT registered? Because some of these commission agents are well established. They have clear settings of their business, the commission work they do. So if you are registered for VAT and the source of your income is commission, then you are supposed to charge, because that is a service, isn't it?
Sure.
You're supposed to charge VAT.
Okay.
On that service. At the end of the day, you're expected to what? To issue an e-invoice through the IFRIS system, because you're VAT registered, unless the commission agent is not what? VAT registered. Since it is not compulsory for non-registered, non-VAT registered taxpayers to use IFRIS, then he or she can use it for his own benefit. But otherwise, if you're a commission agent and you're VAT registered, you must issue what? E-invoice and e-receipt.
Okay. Talking about the e-receipt, that tells us that the IFRIS is electronic in nature. It is also really online, and that is already something where we also want to ask this question. What if internet fails? Because definitely we also know sometimes, as before, the internet may go down. Under such circumstances, what happens?
If the internet is down or network is off, you can still use IFRIS offline. We have mobile applications. A person who is registered to use system to system is capable of continuing to use IFRIS and upload it later. But the condition is you make sure you upload it within 7 days. Okay. Yeah.
That is it.
Other than that, your records will not be uploaded. Will count as what? You made sales and you refuse to what? Issue electronic invoice or electronic receipt.
Okay.
There we can penalize you for not issuing what?
Okay, as we are just remaining with about 4 minutes to wind up with the discussions, I will be able to now ask also really the two of you in 2 minutes maybe to have your final say in relation to what we have been discussing right from the time we began until this hour of the evening, because we have talked a lot of things. We stressed the discussion in IFRIS, we also talked about return filing, and we also talked about other aspects in relation to smuggling. And really, maybe in 2 minutes time, if you can be able to also summarize, and then she will also be taking off the 2 minutes as we come to the end of the discussions.
Thank you so much, moderator, and thanks to our viewers. And coming to the end of this show, I will really want to emphasize the issue of the need to pay taxes and fight against illicit trade and smuggling. And as we had already explained, smuggling has its dangers, because I don't see any positive in smuggling, sincerely, because the danger seems to be much more, though we can try to justify the reasons that's why we do smuggling and so on. But I don't think it's worth doing it, considering all the negatives it is giving us and so on. And to my people of West Nile, I think we may have all the reasons to create excuses here and there and justify our actions. But I think to a certain point, we are much better than where we used to be, compared to where we used to be. And as I said, we need this revenue for all the sorts of services we need to have and so on. I think this is a plus for us from the government of Uganda, considering the investments we have in this country. They may not be much as we may try to justify them, but I understand there's the road between Koboko and Moyo is going to be worked on very soon. And I think that's a very huge amount of money
it's a plus,
going to be put in there. So where does this money come from? That's why we all need to come up and try to mobilize the revenue together to get more of those services. Then also, on still on the issue of the smuggling and so on, I really want to ask the people of West Nile. West Nile has been on the news these recent days so much relating to enforcement and hostility of the community against the enforcers. I think that has been very unfortunate, where lives have been lost, and that both way, because now we have lost community members who are trying to resist enforcement activities. And also, your enforcers have also, some of them have also been able to lose lives in this cause. I think that's something we need to desist from, because it's not a good thing.
But communities sometimes say it is because of just the looks of your officers who dress like commandos as if they are going for war. Maybe what can you say about that?
Thank you so much for that question. Now the issue is, I told you, the approach is the three E's: educate, engage, and enforce. And enforcement comes as a last resort. And enforcement goes after people who are not compliant. Okay. So when enforcement comes in, wouldn't expect somebody, if somebody is compliant, there's no need to use the force, maximum force. But of course, we really try to, the management came here, the Commissioner General was here, URA management has been on ground trying to apologize to the community for the occurrences, issues that took place where lives were lost, and also made a promise that never again should lives be lost. Okay. But still requested that the community should desist from attacking enforcers. Because at the end of the day, it has been a common scenario. You can witness it, you might have witnessed it, whereby you find somebody picking stones, throwing stones to a man, a UPDF officer who is armed, sincerely. That is a thing beyond. So I think that we should desist from that. Okay. And supporting this smuggling is not a good thing. We have come to realize that sometimes even the people who gather around and cause all the commotion and so on don't even know the smugglers. So looking at URA as enemy is not a good thing. And URA is not an enemy. URA is there to provide services and enforcement. We don't go out to do enforcement at random. We only have our targets which we go for. Please cooperate, and there will be no loss of lives. I think that will be a good one. Still, finally on that, smuggling is one of the effects, the negative effects, the promotion of criminality. And you will agree with me that there has been a lot of criminality in this, especially in West Nile, Arua city recently, whereby thugs are taken over the city. I think it was fueled by also the use of numberless motorbikes. So much, and most of these numberless motorbikes were the ones being smuggled from Congo and from the neighboring countries. So URA management still again came in to give a very good offer to the people of West Nile, to have the motorbikes registered at reduced taxes. I think that is an offer which has not been given anywhere. People are having a lot of issues. West Nile, URA is treating us this and that. Honestly, this offer of motorbikes has only been given to West Nile, and our expectation has been that people will take it up and have the motorbikes registered. But till today, you can see a number of numberless motorbikes all over the town, all over the city. And you ask yourself, what is the plan? Because this promotion is for a specific period of time. By the end of this financial year, which is around June, that will be the end of it. So by that time, when URA comes to enforce, what is going to be the excuse now? Because people are given all that period to have their motorbikes registered, but they're not registering. So my humble appeal to the community is that let's use this opportunity, let's take it up. Let's have these motorbikes registered within these remaining days so that we can have we can reduce on the number of numberless motorbikes so that we can have reduce on the number of numberless motorbikes.
All right, thank you so much. That is
finally, maybe having said that, I also urge our community leaders, let the leaders take it up. This, as I said, it's not a URA issue to fight smuggling and so on. We should move out to the community to encourage them to pay their taxes willingly and comply to the laws, and discourage people from, from attacks on the enforcers.
Okay, as our time is almost running up, thank you so much, Mr. Ziga Rasul, and he is the in charge of customs at the rural office. And now we are also still with Adiru Lillian, and she is responsible as the supervisor for domestic taxes still within the rural office, because the rural office also really is one that is a bit busy. Maybe your final words as we come to the end of the discussions.
My final words, number one. Return filing is an obligation provided for in the law. So violation of it comes with a cost. What are those costs? Late filing penalties. So to avoid late filing penalties, I encourage the taxpayers to observe the deadlines, and also the quality of the return they file matters a lot. We just don't put anything there. Declare the correct income, and put something which is reasonable. They are not anything.
Maybe talking about returns in 30 seconds to the Lubara community, because I don't understand that you are somebody from here who knows the language. Because some people have been saying they not also really because people had the stereotype that really URA is not for people of Western sub-region. In 30 seconds to the viewer who is watching us right now, it may be the aspect. Yes, you can summarize in 30 seconds about the issues about filing returns, what it is all about, and what they need to do as we come to the end of the discussions.
Oh, Majid, you're very interesting. We would rather have a whole session in Lubara. Don't you think so?
Okay, maybe next time
for
better.
their benefit. Next time is better, so that we can comprehend it.
But maybe just one word.
Okay, maybe so what is return? One of the return.
Return, yeah,
return.
Fine. Return mante yobodle. The reform ni. Reform do fee. Income. Mivle business vo. Mini ye kanili alumalia, kanimba alumalia, iri depend. Tax type, mini mi register zuru vos. Ika mi register income tax return file izo. And then mimi incomes. As in mi expenses. Expenses, dikide asara mini nga, biasara danga zudai. Miki ofi form da malia. Ili azin si form da kiandra peparu. Milumu dale mi income kartasi pendi kipemi muki ofida URM officer niki receive by stamp. But technology yozo kirangu zo kirami risori maria.
Dear viewer, that also really does bring us to the end of the discussion, and today we are privileged to be joined by Adiru Lillian. She is the supervisor of domestic taxes at Uganda Revenue Authority Office, Rural Office, and also we were also joined by Ziga Mansur, and he is the in charge of customs that is still within the Rural Office. And I hope you had a wonderful time with them, and now you who has been also in doubt and also maybe in ignorance about certain activities of URA, and now that you have gotten it yourself, and what awaits is implementation, because we shouldn't also really get the information and keep it to ourselves. For those maybe who watched us at this time, we must also make sure that we extend this information to the rest of the people out there, so that really we avoid the rift like we did see it over the years, and really that we also want to make an end, and really want to ensure that there's history now, that is also history now, that also really shouldn't repeat itself, and that is also really why as Western Television our #1 mandate remains to enlighten the region, and we can't do that alone, but rather with you as also really as the viewer, as the people, and also really as the people of the region. And really from me to you, have yourselves a good evening, catch up, and we shall also be catching up again. That is also tomorrow for the Kokolerico Live. So from me to you, right now, I'm out until tomorrow.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region. West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
I will rise like a phoenix from the ashes. I will rise, I believe I will rise. I will rise like the Christ. I will rise like a spire. I will rise like a whirlwind on the desert. I will rise, striving to reach the higher ground, the place where I am meant to be. There are forces whose aim is to keep me bound, but as surely as the sun will rise, I will rise. My mind is made, I'm going all the way. Any price I will pay, and